record this session. That way, if anyone misses it, we have a record of it. Okay. So let me do one more thing and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so today we are talking about prehistoric animal adaptations, those characteristics for survival. So what I want to know is, what does prehistoric mean? How long ago did something have to be here in Florida for us to consider it prehistoric? Teachers, if you'll go ahead and use the chat feature and type in chat how long ago you think an animal had to be here to be considered prehistoric. All right, let me get my chat window up so I can see that as you guys are replying to chat. All right, so I'm seeing millions of years ago, 75 million years ago. All right, 1 to 2 million years ago, before humans. All right, so those are some good predictions, but it's a little tricky. So it actually depends. So in North America, we consider our historic record from the time Europeans first arrived, which is about 500 years ago. So anything before Europeans arrived to North America is prehistoric. So the animals that we're going to look at today were here in Florida anywhere from 10,000 years ago to millions of years ago. We're going to look at quite a few. Let me screen share for a minute because I'm going to explain. Some of you may have a handout that looks like this from your teacher today. And if you have this handout from your teacher, what you're going to do is when I talk about a prehistoric animal, you're going to use this box right here to jot down a few notes about its characteristics for survival. And then we're going to talk about a modern day animal. And the reason we're going to talk about a modern day animal is because we want to learn how scientists can use modern day animals to help them learn about prehistoric animals and how they survived. Okay, so that is how this handout is going to work for you today. So the very first animal that we're going to talk about is this one that you can see in my other screen here. This skeleton. Look at that giant thing. Any guesses what kind of animal that is? It lived in Florida. They were here. They were here about 10,000 years ago is when they went extinct. All right. So any guesses? What is that animal that we see on the screen? All right. I see a bear. Yeah, this is a bear, guys. And if you looked closely in the background, you can see an artist actually drew an illustration of what it might look like. And this is a bear called a close Miss Alcock's class, a giant short-faced bear. It's giant. It's like 11 feet tall. Let me walk over to it. Guys, I'm pretty tall. I'm 5'9". That's only 3 inches shy of 6 feet. So look just how big it is after I admit someone. Here we go. All right, I'm going to walk over to it. And you'll notice, hopefully you can see me here, just how much bigger than me this bear is. 11 feet on its hind legs. It was a huge bear. All right. And they were here in Florida about 10,000 years ago. Were people here at that time? What do you think? Yes? No? Maybe? No, some people say. No, says Miss Tatum's class. Guess what? We have record of people in Florida as far back as 13,000 years ago. So people were here at the same time. Let's talk about its adaptations, some of its physical characteristics that would have helped it survive. And to do that, I'm going to take my camera and get you a little close-up of it. First thing you'll notice is this bear has very long legs. And then look at its rib cage. Look how deep it is. When we see a rib cage that big, we typically think that the lungs would have been very, very large. So between the long legs and the large lungs, what do you think this bear would have been really good at based on those adaptations? And then while you're typing that in, I'll show you its head with its teeth. Oh, I see running, swimming, running. This bear was absolutely a long distance runner. And I see climbing and hunting and eating. So this tells us that it was good at running, okay? And it could probably run for long periods of time without getting tired. And it may have been a climber. It was a very large bear, and so sometimes size can get in the way of that. But if we take a look in its mouth, we see it's got some sharp teeth, but then in the back, it's got some flat teeth. So what do you think that tells us about the giant short-faced bear's diet if it has both sharp teeth and flat teeth? Awesome, guys. Yeah, it was an omnivore. It could eat both meat and plants. Now, when scientists first discovered these fossils, they didn't know anything about this animal. And one of the ways that we learned about it is by looking at modern day animals. We can watch modern day animals and see how they live. So if their bones look similar and have some similar adaptations, we think they probably lived in similar ways. So what modern day animal do we have here in Florida that you think scientists could compare to learn how the giant short-faced bear lived in Florida? All right, I see grizzly bear. We don't actually have grizzly bears. I saw brown bear and black bear, and we have black bears in Florida, right? We do. And so we can take a look at how black bears act, their behaviors, and we can learn a little bit about how the giant short-faced bear would act and what it would do. So let's see, I'm hoping my video clip works this time. I think I did enough problem solving. We're gonna try again because I have a little video clip of a Florida black bear. Here we go. And take a look at this cute little guy on its hind legs. And of course, my video is gonna delay a little bit, but he is able just to wheel that garbage can right around. And in a minute, he's gonna flip it over and get exactly what he wants. So it stands on its hind legs, much like we believe the giant short-faced bear would have stood on its hind legs. And so when this skeleton was first found, it would have been laying in the dirt in all sorts of pieces, but scientists looked to modern day bears to pose it, to realize, hey, they're probably going to stand on their hind legs to get their food, right? All right, so that is the bear. Now we are going to take a little trip in the museum. I've got a rolly cart here. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and we're going to take a look at another animal. All right, here we go. If you get motion sickness, just close your eyes here. As I'm moving, you can probably see the megalodon jaw. We're not talking about megalodon today, but we are going to talk about this big cat that I'm getting close to. All right, anyone know who this big cat is or what this big cat is? Sun's coming down on our window, shining on our big cat. What is this big cat here? Let me scroll in my chat. Yeah, this is a saber-toothed tiger. Now this is like, you know, something an artist made, but we find the remains of saber cats, and we know there were at least 6 different types of saber cats in North America, and we find them in Florida. So we know they were living in Florida. And they were here alongside those giant short-faced bears. They also went extinct about 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age, okay? So if we're just looking at what we see from this model, okay, from its physical characteristics, what do you think would have helped the saber-toothed tiger survive? What adaptations were going to help it survive? Type that in chat. Big teeth, running. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's look at a few of those things. Let me move this over and let's take a look. Oh, it's color, good for camouflage and jumping. It absolutely had large teeth. Now, here's what we know. We don't find fossils of many of these broken. So if they were using these to crush bone, they would have been broken. What we think is that these large teeth would have ripped open the flesh and caused their prey to bleed, and they would have tracked it until it fell over. They absolutely have claws. And just like your kitten at home, if you have one, these would have been retractable claws. Okay, so they would have, when they got ready to pounce, the claws would have come out. Now, somebody said running. And here's where we want to look at modern day big cats. Take a look at the tail of the saber-toothed tiger. It would have been short. That is a short tail. What is a modern day big cat that we have in Florida that we could look to compare? Panther, absolutely, we have the Florida panther. Now, when we look at big cats like the Florida panther or lions or tigers or any of those big cats along in the world, what we know is the ones that tend to run have longer tails if they run for any length of time, because those longer tails help their bodies stay balanced. Well, we know from fossil record the saber-toothed tigers did not have long tails. So they probably weren't long distance runners. They would probably prowl and pounce when they found their prey. All right. So speaking of panther, I have a few video clips of some panthers, and although they do have some similar adaptations, right? We know they're big cats. We know they have sharp claws and sharp teeth. So we know they're similar in terms of what they're eating. Their color's the same, so they're camouflaged. There's some questions that we still have that scientists can't necessarily answer just by watching our modern day animal. All right, let me show you some of this footage of our modern day panther. And what you should know is the panther is critically endangered. We just don't have many of them around. And these are all trail cameras of panthers in South Florida. Now, you'll see here there's several panthers. Chances are that's a mother with her cubs. They'll stay with the mom for up to 2 years. But then after that, they pretty much live on their own. And then I'm going to fast forward a little bit and we'll get a few more. This little YouTube video has quite a few. And I don't think I screen shared my audio, unfortunately. I should have, because this panther was making some noise, but it's not roaring. You see, when scientists look at panther bones, they know panthers don't roar. They're missing a special bone that's required for a big cat to make a roaring noise. But when they look at the saber-toothed cat bones, they find the bone that they need to roar. So these cats would have roared. Now, what we don't know is, were they a solitary cat? Did they live on their own? Or did they live in groups and hunt together? Scientists look for clues, and scientists out in California have found one clue about whether or not they lived in groups or by themselves. They found evidence of panthers who had horrible injuries to their bones. If they lived all by themselves, that bone would have never healed and they would have died because they wouldn't have been able to get food, like a broken leg, okay? But they found something different. They found that the leg bones had healed, which suggests to them that other big cats, like family members, were bringing them food as they healed. So we think maybe the saber-toothed tigers lived in groups, but we don't know that for sure. Okay. All right. So we have the saber-toothed tiger and the panther compared with each other. Let's look at another prehistoric animal. And for that, I'm going to swing my card around here. All right, let's see if I can adjust this camera angle. You guys know what that is? What is that guy? It's yeah, absolutely, Miss Certain's class. It's a mammoth. Now, it is not a woolly mammoth. No woolly mammoths in Florida. They were here, mammoths, but this is the Columbian mammoth. It's a little different from a woolly mammoth because it wasn't as woolly. Florida just wasn't as cold as the rest of North America. And so we don't find woolly mammoth fossils here, but we do find Columbian mammoth fossils. All right, so let's take a look at some of its adaptations. So as I move this camera, type in chat, what are some of the physical characteristics that you think would have helped this mammoth survive? All right, tusks. So 2 giant, great big tusks. Yeah, lots of tusks. Big tusks. Big head. Absolutely, its size. So keep in mind long legs, yeah. This guy or girl was here at the same time as giant short-faced bears and saber-toothed tigers. Its size would have helped protect it. And look at that giant hole in the middle of its head. What would that have been for? A giant hole in the middle of the skull. What do you think that was for? Breathing. All right. What else? A breathing hole. A trunk. Yeah. Think about what an elephant looks like, right? They have a trunk coming out of the middle of their head. Imagine you were an explorer in North America and you found the skull of a mammoth and you'd never seen an elephant before and you saw that giant hole in its head. Could you imagine you might think it was for an eyeball? It was a cyclops, right? Early scientists and explorers didn't always fully understand these animals and their adaptations, but after learning about modern animals like elephants, they learned what would have really been there was a trunk, right? Which is its nose, essentially. Its teeth, look, like this. This is the biting surface. What were they eating with a tooth like this? It's flat. What would they have been eating? Herbivores, plants, grass. Yeah, they were giant grass-eating animals. These are perfect for grinding. So then here's the question. What modern-day animal do we have in Florida that we could compare to the mammoth to learn about its adaptations? So one in Florida. What modern day animal do you think is similar? Well, horses do eat grass and so do bisons, but there's actually one that's more closely related. Elephants are closely related, but not in Florida. It's got to be one in Florida. I'll give you a hint. It does not live on land, but it is closely related to the mammoth. Does not live on land, lives in the water. Manatee, sea cow, manatee. Yeah, can you believe that the mammoth and the manatee are actually related in a way? And I'm going to show you how. I'm going to take a look at our video clip of a manatee. Here we go. And what I want you to pay attention to is the lips of the manatee. take a look at how these manatee lips move by themselves. Each side moves independently. They're called prehensile lips, and they can almost use them like hands. Look at that manatee using the two sides of its lips, and that's like a little tow rope on a kayak, and he's just exploring it, maybe sucking some of the algae off. And just like the manatee would use its prehensile lips to explore, the mammoth's trunk, we think, would have been the same. And they could have used it like hands to pick up the grass, because look at those tusks. Would you be able to bend your head down and eat grass with tusks like that? Oh, they'd get in the way, wouldn't they? So the trunk has those little prehensile lips that could grab things and then bring it up to the mouth. All right. So that's pretty cool how we can look to the manatee, and it shows us how that mammoth may have lived. Okay, we have, let's see, so we've done the bear, we've done the saber-toothed tiger, we've done the mammoth. I have one more that I want to show you. All right, we're going to take another ride here, and this one's quite unusual. Whoa, everything's falling off my cart. I better hold on tight to it, guys. Our hope is that we will be back open next year and we can have some of you come and visit. Normally in a year, you'd get to come see this museum with your teacher in 5th grade and 4th grade. But we know this year hasn't been normal. All right, take a look at that strange fossil. That is a jawbone. It's just the bottom jaw, okay? And it's an animal that was here. It went extinct about 5 million years ago, okay? It was in Florida. You notice the back teeth are flat. So what does that tell us? If it had flat back teeth, what does that tell us? What was it eating? Oh, let me scroll down here. Plants. It was a plant eater. Now, it's not a whale, okay? So the front are actually tusks, and we call this a shovel-tusked mastodon. Shovel-tusked mastodon, and it is so unusual. What animal do you think might have similar features to this? Can you think of anything that might look kind of like this animal? Platypus, maybe. They kind of have a bill though, don't they? All right, any other, like, what can you think of? Rack your brain of the animals that you can think of that maybe a rhino, they kind of have some tusks, a boar, a wild hog or a boar. All right, so here is an example where scientists don't have a good modern day comparison, right? We don't have a modern day animal with tusks shaped like a shovel. So we have to make good predictions or inferences based on what we see. So we know it was eating plants because of the flat teeth in the back. What on earth do you think that shovel tusk was for? What do you think this animal, if you were the scientist having to make the prediction or the inference based on your observation, for what? What are they going to use it for? Digging, filtering water, digging. Yeah, so we don't know, right? But digging is a pretty good inference. We could imagine that maybe they're eating roots, or maybe they do live near the water like a hippopotamus, and it helps filter out some water as they're getting aquatic plants. Where was it found? Well, we find it in North America. We have found evidence of it in Florida as well. Okay, now remember, Florida was very different 5 million years ago. Okay. Eating or digging, those are all wonderful guesses. But this is an example where I don't have a good answer to give you, and scientists don't have the answer either. So as we learn more and we discover more fossils and we discover more animals and watch animals' behaviors, modern day animals, we might learn more. Not nothing. It definitely was using this adaptation for something. We just don't know exactly what. So we have to predict what it was using for. But we know animals' body parts aren't random. They're designed for a job. So this tusk did have a special job. It was probably digging. That is probably the most probable job that it would have done. All right, guys, we have 4 more minutes, and this was kind of like the speed tour of a few exhibits at the museum. What questions do you have that I haven't answered today about some of these exhibits that we've seen today, some of these prehistoric or modern day animals and their adaptations? All right, and I will watch those come in chat, and I won't answer all of them. I will do my best. Oh, Miss Danson's class wants to know, were there prehistoric spiders in Florida? We had tons of insects in Florida, and some of our insects that live today were probably here during the last ice age, like cockroaches and things. So absolutely. How big was this? So this shovel-tusked mastodon was probably about as big as the other mastodons we had, which were about the size of an elephant. Okay, what do mammoths need their tusks for? Ooh, good question, Miss Alcock's class. So when we watch elephants with their tusks, that is usually the best indication of what the mammoths would have been using them for. And they use them for 2 main things: a tool, they can push things over, move things, and defense. They can protect themselves. Now, they also have a behavior to protect themselves. They live in groups and they protect each other. Okay, I wish you were at the museum too. How tall is that mammoth? That mammoth is at least 11 feet from the bottom to the top of its shoulders, but then to its head, it's closer to 15 feet. So what is a modern day animal for the shovel-tusked mastodon? We don't really have one. We don't have an animal that has a similar adaptation in terms of the shovel tusk. Now we have other plant eaters, right? And so we can compare the teeth, but not necessarily the tusks. Okay, the shovel-tusked mastodon absolutely had 4 legs. If I get a little closer, you can see an artist illustration of what it looked like. We only have the bottom jaw, but there are other museums that have more complete fossils of them. All right. Which animal has the most bones? I'm not sure. So probably animals with really long backbones. So maybe like the Carcharodon megalodon, although it didn't really have bones. It was a shark that had cartilage, not bones. All right. Do we have any more questions? I probably have time for one more. Oh, does the father panther leave the female and her cubs? Yes. The father panther doesn't raise the cubs at all. In fact, the mother panther doesn't even really know who the father is. It could be one of a number of male panthers. So you know how some birds mate for life? Panthers aren't like that. The mothers take care of the cubs, and sometimes they even need to protect the cubs from the father. They're solitary cats. They have a range. They protect their range even from other panthers. All right, guys, we are at 10:30, and so that is the end of the time we have. Teachers, if there are questions that I did not get a chance to answer, send me an email with those questions. I will be happy to send an email back, and I appreciate everyone joining me and getting this little look into the museum. I hope you all have a fantastic spring break, and I hope to see you when we return. Bye. Thank you.